everyone. I'm Donna Bush with your CIG TV News Brief on this Wednesday. We begin with highlights of today's press briefing on the COVID-19 border reopening. Let's listen to our panelists.
To date, we have successfully worked our way through initial phases of the plan. Tomorrow, September 9th, we move to phase 3, which entails allowing and quarantining all securely verified vaccinated visitors on island. After receiving their negative PCR test after quarantine, they'll be able to swim in our crystal clear waters, put their toes in our sand, and be the first tourists to enjoy Cayman Islands since March 2020. I will leave my colleague, the Minister of Tourism, to speak more in relation to phase 3 and what that involves. But that brings me to Monday's unsettling news of 24 new cases of COVID-19 here in Grand Cayman. These 24 cases involved 23 travelers and one household member who did not travel but quarantined with family members who traveled. 15 of the 24 were unvaccinated and 9 were vaccinated. Since February 2021, we have had 325 cases of COVID, 263 of which were unvaccinated and only 62 of which were vaccinated. I hope these numbers will serve as an impetus for those who haven't yet been vaccinated to go and get vaccinated.
I do sort of believe we have to move forward as a jurisdiction, and we have to not allow ourselves as a community to be paralyzed by fear. That's why my main focus and that of the Deputy Governor is on ensuring that the civil service gives the government the very best evidence-based policy advice on which to take decisions, which of course takes full account of the science, the Chief Medical Officer's views, and stepped up engagement with health experts at Public Health England, who have engaged with us and other overseas territories throughout this pandemic and provided helpful support.
From telemedicine to drive-through testing and our own ability to perform genomic sequencing, the men and women who remain on the front lines helping us to get through the worst of the pandemic are ready, willing, and able to take care of us once again, when and if it becomes necessary. And if it isn't just our dedicated medical professionals that are prepared, our local healthcare infrastructure has been strengthened throughout the past 18 months to ensure that facilities and programs are ready for any potential surge in the virus. Our islands have expanded capacity of hospital beds and ventilators. The Cayman Islands hospitals has 7 ventilated beds, including 2 negative pressure isolation rooms. There is a further in-house capacity of 20 ventilated beds in the surgical unit. The respiratory care unit is available with 6 beds if needed.
Phase 3 introduces 2 important changes from Phase 2. The first is that airlines will be allowed to resume commercial service and will no longer be limited to repatriation flights for essential needs only. The second difference is that vaccinated tourists or persons traveling purely for leisure reasons and who are over the age of 12 years will now be allowed to visit the Cayman Islands, whereas before, this was limited to returning Caymanians, residents, work permit holders, and others with close ties to the country. One thing that does not change in Phase 3 is the quarantine period. Let me say that again. One thing does not change is the quarantine period. Every traveler, whether returning resident or visitor, must still complete a quarantine period, the length of which is dependent upon their vaccination status. Travelers whose vaccination status can be securely verified will be subject to 5 days in quarantine. A negative PCR test is required on day 6 for the quarantine period to come to an end.
And remember, you can watch the entire press briefing here on demand on the CIG television YouTube channel. Finally this evening, Miss Cayman Islands Universe contestant number 7 is Marquita Ebanks from Bordentown. We continue our annual contestant feature immediately following this evening's news brief. And you can, of course, watch as well on the CIG Television YouTube channel and the Cayman Islands Government Facebook page. The government-owned Miss Cayman Islands Universe pageant takes place this Saturday, September 11th at the Westin Resort and Spa. Taking a look at our temperatures today, the high reached 90 degrees, the low 77. The forecast is for partly cloudy skies and hazy skies with a 30% chance of afternoon showers and some possible thunder, which didn't actually happen today. Winds are from the east to southeast at 10 to 15 knots, east to northeast at 5 to 10 knots. Seas are slight with wave heights of 1 to 3 feet. Now, the synopsis calls for isolated showers along with light to moderate easterly winds and seas, which will continue across the Cayman Islands area for the next 24 hours. It's in association with a weak pressure gradient that's across the Caribbean region. A decrease in hazing conditions are expected from Thursday morning. Radar images show isolated showers that are in and around the Cayman Islands area are moving towards the west. A reminder that you can find the latest on local weather conditions online at weather.gov.ky. And that's it for today's news brief here on CIG Television. I'm Donna Bush, as always, thanking you for joining us and wishing you a safe and wonderful night. Bye-bye for now.
In the next 5 years, I see myself pursuing my bachelor's degree, and I'll still be teaching, and I will hopefully be on the way to getting my own house. Just anything sweet and chocolatey. Yeah, that would be it, like chocolate cheesecake or something. Dr. Roy Bodden. Ever since I was little, he has just always been an inspiration for me. Just the way that he speaks, about the island and how passionate he is about us keeping our own identity, or like creating our own identity away from like colonialism and so forth. And he's just, you know, a well-educated, well-read, and well-spoken man, and that inspires me. There's so many places that I would like to visit, but right now, if COVID wasn't happening, I'd be on a plane to Trinidad to try some doubles from Trinidad. Because I've had doubles here, but I want to try it from the motherland, you know. I think my biggest pet peeve is just people being mean and rude for no reason. Like just absurdly, without any obvious reason, I should say.
Join Donna Bush weekdays at 6 p.m. for the CIG TV News Update. Get the latest on what's happening in government on a daily basis. News Update first at 6 p.m.